This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Today is Tuesday, July the 23rd, 2024. So glad you could join us. Coming up a little later on in the program, we'll talk with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig about how the flooding situation is going and how those conservation practices are holding up in the situation. But first, let's go ahead and take a rundown of the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, we're at the end of another trading day, and it's time to talk with Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. And Ross, we started off slow with the grains. Is that how it continued throughout the day, or what did we see coming out of those corn and soybean markets today?
Corn and beans, they closed higher again here today. Soybeans, they're the ones with the story right now. With the forecast has been leaning towards some hot and dry weather, and with beans being made in August, beans took notice of it, and we started Monday off on a really firm note, and then we had strong follow through again here this morning. But heading into the close here, some of the forecasts came out. They were showing the extended forecast has got some cooler weather than what was originally anticipated. So beans ended the day, they were 6 to 7 cents higher, but November soybeans were about 10 cents, 11 cents off of their high, which was a flag. And corn, it really backed off going into the close as well. We were ended the day 2 cents higher, but it was about a nickel off the highs. Interesting to note, corn and beans both traded above their 20-day moving averages, which has been a big spot that people have been wanting to watch here and how they would handle that technical level. And the fact that they were trading well above them had some people feeling good early this morning, but they rejected those and actually closed back below them for both corn and soybeans. So I do think going home here, given the calendar that it is July 23rd, the crop is still in good shape. We continue to see crop conditions remain really strong. Corn was down 1%, but it was pretty much in line with expectations yesterday. And soybeans, they were unchanged at 68% good to excellent. So the conditions remain good. And given that it is towards the end of July, you're only at this point a couple good rains away from just putting everything behind you as far as crop problems. And so I think that the fact that we traded above the 20-day and rejected it, I would pay strong attention to that level here moving forward.
You know, it's interesting, you know, or that time period, like you said, the few rains are going to could make a difference. And we saw that the last couple of years with the drought conditions that we saw, that timely rain was enough to really turn things around and get something out of it. But you're talking a year now where we've got some subsoil moisture accumulated too. I mean, is it as needed as it was in the past few years?
No, it's not. And that's such a good point to bring up is the last few years with the drought, like you mentioned, we get the timely rains towards the end of July or into early August. And what that has highlighted is just these modern day genetics for corn and soybeans. It's unreal what they can put themselves through just to continue buying time to get to the next rain. And so to answer your question, no, I don't think we don't need the amount of rain for this time of the year like we have here, given we have for the most part a full profile of moisture right now across the country. And so the corn crop, in my opinion, I don't think the corn crop needs much more rain here to finish out. The pollination window has been really good. I mean, yes, we have some hot and dry weather coming at us, but we just haven't put this crop through hardly any stress. I mean, this is going to be, some of these low to mid 90s that we're going to see over the next week to 10 days. I mean, it's going to really be the first bout of, extended hot weather we've had, but the corn crop's going to be post-pollination. And the soybean crop is very similar. The soybean crop hasn't been put through much stress. It is going to receive some stress here, but you're only 1 or 2 rains away. And given what the moisture pattern's been like this summer, I would be in the camp that we'll have some moisture pop up here as we finish out the growing season.
All right, moving over to the livestock side of things. Let's start with cattle. What do we see come out of there today?
We had a very strong day. They were quiet for probably the first hour or two. Live cattle really traded for the most part unchanged. We ended the day where August live cattle, they really bull spreaded the markets. And August live cattle ended the day about $2.40 higher. The rest of the curve, the back months, they were around $1.50 higher. Feeder cattle, they were over $2 higher, $2 to $2.40 higher as well. And at one point early on, feeders, they were trading lower. But those markets, they've really, over the last week or so, I mean, we've really chopped sideways, been consolidating. But August and October live cattle have been holding major trend line support. And with August being the lead month, if you look at a weekly cattle chart, they have been spending time just above their uptrend support line that started from April of 2020. And that's essentially, that is the line in the sand. April of 2020, if you draw an uptrend on the weekly chart, that is where this bull market started for the live cattle market. And we've been spending some time here, and I and a lot of other people have been watching it. I mean, are we going to bounce off there? Are we going to actually get one of our first closes below it in 4 years? And so far, especially with today's close, we've bounced well off of that level. The daily charts look good. You know, the weekly show lists are lower here for fat cattle here this week. So I would imagine that we see some steady to possibly higher trade across the cattle markets, which will be a good sign. We had the cattle on feed report last Friday. It showed up. The on feed number was neutral with guesses, but it showed a bullish placements number, came in well below what the guesses were. It's about 3% below the guesses. So, I mean, the fundamental picture, it remains well intact for the cattle market. But I mean, there's still no shortage of outside noise. I mean, across the global markets, the United States political picture, and any impacts that could have as we head into the election. But for the time being, I mean, the cattle markets look like they're in good shape.
All right, then switching gears over to the hogs, then what did we see out of that market today?
Hogs had triple-digit gains as well today. August hogs closed $1.30 higher, and the hog market, it continues. Off the top of my head, I think it's been around 8, 9, 10 days of big gains that they've had. I mean, they've put it together about a $10 rally here recently, after just having that horrible sell-off that hogs went through going back to April. I mean, it was just relentless selling, and the funds built into a big short position. And I think more so than anything, pork demand has been good. Our exports have been good, but it hasn't been anything earth-shattering. I mean, we're not seeing major China demand. It's hard to see major Chinese demand for U.S. pork on the horizon, given it seems they have ample pork supplies. But right now, more than anything, I think what you're seeing is the funds way overshot the runway with this bearish position that they build into, and you're just seeing short covering. And the hog market, similar to, I would say, the live cattle and the feeder cattle market, when they want to start hitting the exit door, it's not like the grain markets where there's so much volume that they can exit without huge price swings. The hog market looks like it has a V bottom intact, and if they want to continue to cover these short positions, it's a fairly small door for them. So the biggest thing for hogs right now is fun short covering, and the technicals look extremely bullish.
All right, well, Ross, lots of information for us to think about. If folks want to get in touch with all of you at agmarket.net, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can reach me at our office here in Anthon. Our number is 712-373-3276, or you can visit agmarket.net to find any of the ag market brokers.
All right, Ross, we thank you for the insight. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Thanks for having me.
And that again was Ross Baldwin of agmarket.net. Let's take a look at the closing numbers on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network market screen.
September corn was up 2 1/4 at 4.02 1/2. August soybeans down 1/4 cent at 11.17 1/2. Soybean meal down 90 cents at 3.4270. Soy oil down 34 cents at 46.66. Chicago wheat down 5 1/4 at 5.42 3/4. Kansas wheat down a nickel at 5.66 3/4. Minneapolis spring wheat down 7 1/4 at 6.15 1/2. Oats down 4 1/4 at 3.41 even. On the Merc live cattle up $2.37 at $186.30. Feeders up $2.35 at $258.70. Lean hogs up $1.27 at $93.65. Pork cutouts up 67 cents at $103.80, and Class 3 milk up 13 cents at $20.27.
And that's been a check of our market recap. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association, and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, Iowa Agriculture Secretary Mike Naig. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. So often when we talk about the conservation practices we put in our fields, we're sold on water quality and also the reduction of erosion of soil by water and air. Well, we've seen a lot of heavy rainfall and a lot of water activity in our state, including some historic flooding up in the northern tier counties. Well, obviously in those areas, conservation practices are going to be damaged and put beyond their level of capability. So repairs are going to have to be made. But all in all, they're still doing their share. And what are we seeing? Well, we talk with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. So I figure we can start right now with something we were talking about just before we came on the recording here is the crop conditions up in northern Iowa. You know, we've seen some blessings and some curses at the same time. I mean, one hand, we're finally out of a drought for the first time in 4 years that the whole state is clear, but yet it's come at a heavy price, especially in some of those northern Iowa towns.
Well, we've definitely had a drought buster, and you can say that for sure. And in fact, we even had just a little bit of a dry spot starting to form up in Scott County and Clinton County a couple weeks ago, and even that now has been taken off the map. So as you look across the state of Iowa, 4 years of drought completely remedied. But as you say, with it has come a significant amount of severe weather, certainly the tornadoes in predominantly southwest Iowa, south central Iowa in May and June, and then or April and May and June. And then, of course, we've seen intense flooding and rainfall that has fallen across northwest Iowa. I've had a chance to be up there several times, and just late last week did again. Had a chance to get on some farms, visit with farmers, see some of the damage, and you can essentially run from Mason City all the way over to Lyon County, the top 2 tiers of counties all the way across, and see the effects of too much rain. The pothole region that's got water sitting, drowned out spots, prevent plant, and just a lot of variability in that crop. And yet within that, you can even find some places that just look phenomenal. And certainly as I travel in other parts of the state, you can see some awesome looking crops. I think we're going to be talking record setting yields in some places. And that mantra of variability, I think, is how we're going to continue to talk about this crop.
Now, we talked a little bit about, before we went on too, about some of those conservation practices. You see the terraces and things like that are going on. How are they holding them? I mean, this is a historical flood level, so I mean, everything's going to take a beating. But how are those practices holding up? I mean, this is kind of the thing that we kind of put them in place for, is to see how they would hold up.
Yeah, some good news. I was just up in the lakes area, and they've really been focused on putting in wetlands up above those lakes. And, there's been some aerial photography taken, and you can see that those wetlands did their job. They held back some of that surge, that bounce that would have otherwise affected properties and contributed, again, to flow downstream. And so there's, I think, a success story, and one that I think needs to be told is look at the benefits of that. There's water quality benefits, but there's also flood mitigation that occurs there. So there are some good news stories there where we saw that play out. Across the landscape, you've got a lot of erosion. You've got some blown out terraces, some waterways that are cut. I really would encourage folks, as you especially get into the field this fall, you're going to notice some places where you've got some erosion, some cuts, and those might be opportunities for you to think about a grass waterway or a terrace or a buffer strip of some kind. And that's a great time to make note of those things and get in and talk to the county conservation office. So you get somebody out there to look at it and see what you can do. But the other side of that will be just repairing the damage to practices like those terraces. Lots of fencing in pastures that has been blown out, and folks, there is some assistance for folks to get some cost share to put fencing back in. But I have to tell you that in addition to all those things, The other erosion impact was that, we've got roads that are still closed. We've got bridges that were damaged. That's creating challenges of just trying to get feed down the road or get animals to market. Those are challenges today. But as we all look to fall, we know that just getting grain down the road, getting equipment down the road, you may be driving significant number of miles out of the way just because you've got some restrictions or some roadways that are closed. And so that's not an easy fix. It takes time, but resources are on the way for that kind of road repair. It's just it won't all be buttoned up here as we get into fall.
And the really thing is, we've been talking too, the farms have seen damage, and the infrastructure has seen damage, but also like these small towns. I know we all saw the flooding in Spencer and other small towns that are damaged. You're talking about schools, grain elevators, you're talking about the local grocery store, things like that have taken damage. It's going to take time for those to heal as well.
Oh, absolutely. And, I've certainly you hear a lot about, Spencer and Rock Valley, Rock Rapids, Hayward, but then there were effects downstream, Correctionville, Cherokee, Humboldt. That water has to go somewhere, and low-lying areas are affected. But don't forget about some of our, really small communities like a Sioux Rapids. I was there late last week, and their downtown significant damage. Unfortunately, I think some buildings will likely have to come down. That changes the face of a community. But I do think about all the folks that are displaced. What does it mean from a workforce standpoint? What's it mean for those families? Where do they have to go just to get into some housing? I appreciate Governor Reynolds has really brought, I think, a strategic look at this. There are some near-term. How do you get some near-term housing solutions like RVs, mobile homes, those types of things? Then you've got to go to the next level and think about how do you start to rebuild, look at some new housing developments. There are probably some places in these communities that were damaged heavily where homes won't be rebuilt. That's not something that's, again, going to happen in the next few weeks. That takes potentially years for that to all come together. But I think the assistance that the governor has secured either through FEMA or the way that will be deployed under her supervision, I think is all good. It's the right thing to do. And we want to get folks back into these communities. It'll be a tough go as those folks are recovering. Not a quick process, but folks, I don't know. I see the spirit of communities coming together. I see folks rallying around each other and their businesses. Makes me proud to be an Iowan. Makes me proud to visit some of these communities and see that and be able to tell others about it. It's a special thing, but some folks are going through some incredibly hard times.
We'll have more in coming episodes with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. And that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, and our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget about the free market podcasts that come out 3 times a day, openings, middays, and closings on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Well, you can find them on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, Google, and Podbean, or find replays online at iowaagnet.com, as well as replays of our Weekend Ag Matters program and our daily Iowa Ag Matters program. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Hoffman. For Riley Smith, Quentin Slater, and Mark Magnuson, we thank you for listening and watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.